A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
He is hit. He stumbles. He's down.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Of course, you can watch the show live on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. Middle of the week, you know what that means? It's a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave Weinberg will join us coming up in about 20 minutes from now to talk more deeply about the Philadelphia Eagles. Middle of the week, obviously, the injury report came out. I'll get to that in just a couple minutes here as well. Don't forget as well, tonight on 97.3 ESPN, Wild Card National League edition game tonight. The Dodgers versus the Cardinals. And by the way, you know, that game between the Yankees and Red Sox last night, that game is symbolic of why in sports, if you are not the person who actually watches the sport, don't predict things. I saw people picking the Yankees, and I don't think that person has actually watched a baseball game this year. Not that I was picking in the game either. I just felt the game was going to be a great game, and I didn't really care to make a pick. I didn't have any money on it. And man, Garrett Cole, they overspent for that guy. Woo! But, you know, if you would have listened to Ian Kinsler last night, he was telling you that he thought the Red Sox would win that game. Now, of course, he played with those guys. He's friends with some of those guys. That's probably part of the reason why he picked them. But you know what? Ian Kinsler happened to be right. All right, let's get to the Eagles stuff here. Of course, you could chime into the conversation as well. The 97.3 ESPN mobile app, priority messaging into the show, thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Of course, we are live on YouTube and Twitter, and the text board is open, 609-403-0973. Few minutes. I'm going to give you, I had a eureka moment last night. I understand now why the Eagles defense has played poorly for 2 weeks. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. But first, I want to give you guys an update on the injury report for the Eagles. Lane Johnson still out with a personal matter. Now, Derek Gunner's reporting that he'll be back at some point, but it's looking more and more like no Lane Johnson again for this Sunday. Whatever's going on in his personal life, we hope the best for him. We hope everything's okay. But obviously it's serious enough to take Lane away from playing football. And as I told you guys on Monday's show, Lane Johnson is a guy who is very public. He is very unafraid to speak his mind. He is somebody who is very vocal to the media, on social media. So for him to not have tweeted anything since September 30th should tell you how serious this is. So whatever's going on in his life, thoughts and prayers to Lane Johnson for whatever's going on. But the rest of the did not practice list, Jason Kelsey with the infamous foot/rest designations. Don't read too much into that. He's probably going to be good to go. The big news, though, of the day, Jordan Mailata limited at practice. Big deal. Mailata, I think they need him back on the field. All right. I don't think Dillard has done a bad job, but I think it's very apparent that there is a significant gap between what Mailata can do and what Dillard can do at this point. When I watched Dillard the last couple of weeks, I see a guy who is a competent tackle in the NFL. When I watch Jordan Mailata, I see a guy that one day can maybe go to a Pro Bowl and maybe even be an all-pro selection. I think Mailata's ceiling is way higher than Dillard. I think Dillard is a serviceable, and I think he can be a good left tackle if he works at it and continues to improve. Obviously, the penalties are a problem. But the other thing with Dillard is that, remember, when he was first drafted, he came from an offense that didn't really run the ball at all. They ran the ball only a couple times his entire career at Washington State. That's the Mike Leach offense when they were up there. So, Dillard was a guy who just didn't understand certain aspects of playing offensive line in the NFL because he never had to do some of those pro concepts in college. So you're asking a guy to basically come into the NFL and do something that he had never done before. Mailata has the luxury, for lack of a better term, to have zero football background when he got trained by Jeff Stoutland and the Eagles staff. Mailata was a blank canvas for them to mold and create this freakazoid of a football player. And similar to Joel Embiid, when Mailata was being taught the game of football, similar to when Joel Embiid went to Kansas, if you ever listen to the stories of when Joel Embiid was at Kansas learning from the coaching staff, he was a blank canvas. So they are teaching him their view of the game, how they understand the game. And now you're seeing at this level where Joel Embiid could have been the league MVP last year, and now you have this diamond in the rough in Jordan Mailata. Like I said, there's just a gap between him and Dillard. And personally, I would love to see Mailata back at left tackle as soon as possible. Now, of course, we don't know the whole story because if Lane Johnson doesn't play on Sunday, which is the better option? If Mailata can go, do you keep Dillard at left tackle or do you put Mailata at right? Or do you stick Mailata back at left tackle and do you keep Jack Driscoll at right tackle? Because from what I saw of Driscoll, and what everybody else has said of Driscoll's play, I thought he did a good job. For a guy who had basically 90 minutes to prepare to start at left tackle after practicing a right guard for basically the majority of the week, just coming off the injured reserve list, he did a very good job. And remember, Driscoll is a guy who had to start for Lane Johnson last year and played well there as well. So personally, if I'm the Eagles, I would go Lane. If Lane can't play and Mailata can, I'm going Mailata at left tackle and I'm going Driscoll at right. But that's just me. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. The full Eagles injury report again. Mailata limited at practice. Maddox limited at practice. Quez Watkins limited. Kelsey did not practice due to rest. And, of course, Lane Johnson, with the personal matter, not practicing at all. Now, I told you guys I get to the defense. I had an epiphany last night. I had a moment of clarity, okay? The moment of clarity is this. The moment was I was listening to somebody explain something that was going on in college. And I realized finally why the Eagles defense has struggled for 2 weeks. So for anyone who's watched college football, one of the big stories in the year this year has been Iowa's defense. And their defense has been forcing turnovers left and right. And I was listening to a guy who used to play football named Michael Felder. Michael Felder played at UNC, had a very nice college career. He was explaining why the Iowa defense has been so good, because he was explaining that the Iowa defense is a very heavy zone defense. And then he dropped this little nugget in there in the conversation. He said, the Iowa defense, if you make it an NFL analogy, it's similar to the Mike Zimmer defense. And my mind just almost ran off the rails at that point. Because then I'm thinking, wait a minute. So I'm going back and rewatching Iowa football and Eagle games last night at about 2 o'clock in the morning because I have no life. And I'm sitting there and I'm realizing there's a reason why the Eagles allowed 23 points the first 2 weeks and 83 points the last 2 weeks. It's because the zone defense got soft. When you watch Iowa play their zone defense and you look what the Eagles did versus the Falcons and the 49ers, you realize that what they did against the Falcons and the 49ers, their zones were tight. They had overlaps. Guys were not backpedaling all the time. Guys were up in their zone. They weren't passive. They were aggressive. The reason why Kyle Pitts didn't get a ton of opportunities was because the opportunities they were trying to get him open, there were brackets. There was a guy over top. There was a guy on the bottom. Ridley didn't have a huge game for the Falcons. Why? Brackets. Zone top, zone bottom. When the zone defense is run properly, it covers multiple areas at the same time. So if you are a player running a zone defense, for example, if you have a linebacker who is supposed to be to the left side of the field, you also have a cornerback and a safety who is supposed to also fill in areas around the linebacker's zone. Well, what happened in the Cowboys game and what happened in the Chiefs game, the guys weren't overlapping. They weren't aggressive. They were passive. That's why the Eagles have had this happen to them. Now, if I can figure this out, I'm sure that a defensive coach like Jonathan Gannon can figure this out too. So I'm not saying that I've come up with some, earth-shattering reality here. But let me ask you guys a question. And I mean this in all sincerity. So if you're sitting in your car listening to me on 97.3 ESPN FM, you're listening on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, or you're watching at 97.3 ESPN on YouTube and Twitter, or you're listening at 97.3 ESPN.com, we appreciate you on board wherever you're at. And I mean this question in all sincerity. If you're the person who thinks Gannon's an idiot or the Eagles' defense is horrible, let me ask you this question and just process this information for me. The San Francisco 49ers scored 17 points against the Eagles. That is the least number of points the 49ers have scored all year. Against Seattle, they scored 21. Against Green Bay, they scored 28. And against Detroit, they scored 41. The Atlanta Falcons scored 6 points versus the Eagles. They scored 25 against Tampa Bay, and they scored 30 against Washington. And then they scored 17 versus the Giants. Is it really a coincidence that the two games that the Eagles defense played best also happened to be the least number of points scored by those two teams in the entire season so far? Because like I said, you ran the defense one way for 2 weeks and you got away from it for another 2 weeks. I don't think it's a coincidence, folks. I think that if Gannon gets back to having a more aggressive and tighter zone and a less passive zone, you have an opportunity to be more successful. I genuinely believe that this defense, I don't think they're the defense that only allows 23 points over 2 games, but I also don't think they're the defense that allows 83 points over 2 games. I think they're somewhere in the middle there. Because like I said, when you go back and watch the film, and when you go back and watch what the 49ers and Falcons have done versus other defenses, you realize that the problem isn't the Eagles' personnel. The problem is the play calling. And just like Sirianni completely failed as a play caller for 2 weeks, Jonathan Gannon has been outcoached for 2 weeks as well. And this Sunday is an opportunity to get back on track. But it's up to Gannon and the defensive coaching staff to get their heads out of the sand and realize that there was a formula of success and they have to get back to it and stop being passive. They have to be tighter. They have to be more aggressive. They have to have the zone overlaps. They got to stop leaving guys on islands and giving guys way too much space to roam. Josh Hennig here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Of course, it's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle. We'll get to some of your messages a little bit later this hour. Of course, you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. And, of course, we have a YouTube message opportunity as well as we live stream. Anthony and Dan, we will get to your messages a little bit later in the show. But coming up on the other side, Dave Weinberg joins me for a Weinberg Wednesday right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night.
The National League Wild Card on ESPN Radio.
Dodgers, Cardinals, let's go.
Goldschmidt swings and hits one a mile to left field. It's way back into the bullpen and left.
Adam Wainwright and the St. Louis Cardinals head to Los Angeles to face the Dodgers.
This one is hammered to left field by Betts. That's a no-doubter.
The National League Wild Card, the Cardinals and Dodgers.
Listen to the MLB playoffs tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30 on 97.3 ESPN.
It's game time. Football season is in full swing, and you can catch all the NFL action at the FanDuel Sportsbook in Bally's Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City. It's time to get in on all the games you love. Experience sports betting done right with live streaming games, food and beverage, self-service betting kiosks, and more. Get your game face on and score big this weekend when you bet at FanDuel Sportsbook in Bally's off the boardwalk, Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Of course, we are being brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Casino in Atlantic City. Bet all the action in style this football season at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook, just off the boardwalk at Bally's, Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. With your guys' messages a little bit later in the hour, but as we do each and every week here on 97.3 ESPN. It's a Weinberg Wednesday, so Dave Weinberg joins us to talk more Eagles and football right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, how you doing today?
Doing well, Josh. How are you? Just in the middle of watching my 5-year-old grandson's soccer game, but I always take time to talk to you.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you took time. Second of all, I will note to everybody that is a real brick wall behind you, because apparently the new trend out there is everyone has like a fake brick wall behind them in their like house studios now. So it makes me laugh.
Really?
I don't know why.
I'm not that creative.
Yeah, well, I just think the whole thing, like, I get why they do it. Like, they don't want people to see all their junk in their house or something. It's fine, but it's like,
I got you.
Why does everyone just have the same background? That's all. Get
this is actually a school behind me.
Yeah, that's an actual building behind Dave Weinberg. If you're watching,
there you go.
Dave, let's get into the Eagles, because
sure.
I don't know what is more frustrating at this point, but I gotta start with the penalties. To me, at the end of the day, you had 3 penalties that took points off the board. Dillard keeps making the same mistake, right? Barnett's basically being watched by the officials now. At what point does the players realize that they got to be better?
Yeah, honestly, Josh, 44 penalties in 4 games. They lead the NFL. That's a reflection on the coaching staff to me. You have to have your team just has to be more disciplined than that. Can't keep, like you said, can't keep making the same mistakes week after week, which is what happens. I kind of thought Dillard played okay aside from those penalties. Barnett, I've pretty much given up on him. He's good for one stupid penalty a week that's going to cost his team 15 yards, whether it's a personal foul or what have you. But yeah, I just think it's incumbent upon Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon to, I don't know, read him the riot act. I don't know what you're supposed to do, but you have to be more disciplined than that as a football team.
Yeah, I feel like at some point everyone's just got to wake up. There's only so many times Sirianni can talk about accountability and discipline and all this stuff. But to me, Dave, I feel like at some point the player has to take a little pride, right? Like, without Brandon Graham in that locker room, you lost Graham. You lost the heart and soul of that defense. Someone's got to grab Barnett by the face mask and be like, dude, grow up. Someone's got to get in Dillard's ear and be like, hey, man, you can't get that far down the field. You got to listen to Stoutland. Like, at some point, to me, you talked about how Peterson had the players' council. Like, there needs to be a players' council right now in this locker room to grab some of these guys and be like, hey, guys, we're professional football players. You need to act like it.
The most frustrating ones are the stepping out of bounds and coming back in.
Yes.
You have to know where you were on the field. You can't, just step out 5 yards and expect to come back in and score a touchdown. It doesn't work that way. And they've been playing football long enough. They know where the sideline marker is. That's the one that really gets me. First it was Jalen Reagor, I believe, and then it was Devontae Smith this past week. That's just a lack of concentration mistake. I don't know what it is, but those are the ones that really stuck out to me.
Dave, I'm glad you mentioned Jonathan Gannon, because before you came on, I want to say I was reading him the riot rack, but I had a bit of an epiphany last night, and I realized why the Eagles defense went from allowing 23 points for 2 weeks to 83 in the next 2 weeks. And it wasn't just because of Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott. They're playing soft zone. They're not being aggressive. Like, Jonathan Gannon, how long have you worked in the league? Like, you got to be better than that. I feel like, we ripped Sirianni for 2 weeks saying Sirianni going to be a better play caller. Well, now Gannon's the one getting out coached.
Yeah, I don't know what his philosophy is. I mean, he even said today he really doesn't have one.
Right.
He just, I guess, judges by how the game unfolds or whatever. But yeah, you can't keep playing those 2 deep safeties the whole game because people are just going to kill you underneath. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah, granted, you don't want to give up the big play. I understand, but you have to do a better job at least being a little bit more aggressive, stopping the running game of the other team. That's the thing that's been killing them the last 2 weeks. Is just the running game. They've just been getting gashed, and you just can't keep playing defense like that. You have to take some chances. You're going to get burned once in a while. I get it, but you can't just keep playing the way you're playing.
Yeah, I don't understand. And look, maybe I'm not in those meeting rooms, so I can't speak to some of this personally, but I just feel like if I see something, you see something, and everybody else sees something, then why are they not fixing it? I think that's what should frustrate football fans, the Eagle fans, more than anything, is that if they know what's wrong, why can't the coaches figure that out too?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously they know more than we do. But yeah, it seems pretty clear, what their problems are and why they can't fix them. I don't know. I don't know if it's just they don't have the talent to do it. I don't know, or coaching ability, or I don't know what it is. But yeah, there's a lot of problems on this football team, and they've got to figure a way to figure it out, but they haven't done it yet.
Dave Weinberg joining us for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Now, Dave, the good news is, if there is any good news after a loss, the Eagles now have scored 30 points in 2 games this year, something they couldn't do at all last year. So I ask you, how much of that is the quarterback? How much of that is the play calling? How much of that is the talent around the offense?
Probably a little bit. I don't know if that's play calling, but I think the quarterback has a lot to do with it. You have Jalen Hurts, he's been taking a lot of heat in the first couple of weeks. He didn't have the best games, but he's really come on strong, I think. I thought he had a tremendous game this past week against Kansas City. Accurate, decisive, the leader that you're looking for in your football team. I'm not sure whatever they're doing, they should keep doing it. That's for sure. Although I do wish that they would incorporate the running game more. That still seems to be a problem. While it was like 3 carries 2 weeks ago, 9 carries, I think, this past Sunday. You're not going to win football games like that. Although, if you score 30, you should win. But still, but I'm really encouraged by Jalen Hurts, though. I think he's really showing that he deserves at least mention as the franchise quarterback of the future for this team. Still, it's way too early, but people were ready to give up on him after a couple of weeks, and he's shown that you shouldn't be so quick to write him off. I don't think.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Dave, because that was my next thought. Like, I mean, while you're saying, I'm thinking, but there are people who are already they're done on him. They're ready to bail on him, and I just remember remember when AJ Feely was playing and people were like, this guy should be the starter, and I'm just like, no, he shouldn't be the starter. And then the Eagles smartly, Andy traded him for draft picks, and he was really good at that. So I don't understand why almost every quarterback who walked through Philadelphia in the last 20 years, it was like, this guy should be the starter. And then Hurts has a rough game and a half. And it's like, we're done with this guy.
Yeah, that's just the nature of the Philadelphia fan, I guess. They just they want excellence all the time, every play, every game, and the NFL just doesn't work that way. You're gonna struggle a little bit. That's just the way it goes. But I think he's handled everything. He's handled the adversity very well. Has refused to get down on himself. He takes the blame for whatever goes wrong, even though it's probably not his fault. But that's what leaders do, and I'm really impressed with him to this point. And I just hope he can keep it up.
Dave, obviously one of the stories of the weekend was about Lane Johnson and his being absent for personal matter. Now, the good news is, according to Derek Gunn, he's on his way back to Philadelphia. He won't be at practice today, obviously, and he might not even play on Sunday. But I was explaining to people earlier, and I want you to kind of, take this a little further because you've been in the locker room, you've been around Lane. Lane is the kind of guy who doesn't shy away from anything. Like, he's not a guy who runs from competition. He's always open. So for him to go radio silent, this must be very serious.
Yeah. Lane's definitely not the type of guy to shy away from anything. I mean, you saw it earlier in his career when he had the performance-enhancing drugs problem. Cost him a bunch of games and injuries. But yeah, he's always been a stand-up guy who, well, if you ask him a question, he's going to give you an honest answer. That's just the way he's wired. He's always been that way. I don't know what the situation is, but yeah, you're right. It has to be something very serious and personal for him to shut down like that. I'm sure in time he might reveal what it is, or at least give us some sort of an explanation. But right now, you just got to take him at his word, so to speak. That whatever it is, he's dealing with it, and he'll be back relatively soon.
Now, Dave, my position is, because Mailata was back at practice in a limited capacity today, so that's some good news. But if Lane's not playing this week, if I'm the Eagles, I want Mailata back at left tackle, and I keep Driscoll at right tackle because I thought overall Driscoll did a good job, especially considering he had 90 minutes to prepare to play right tackle in an NFL game.
Yeah, that's probably a smart move to make, I would think. Although I'm a little higher on Dillard, I guess, than you are. I don't think he's played that bad. I think he's actually done a half decent job, aside from the penalties, of course. But I don't know if they think that maybe Mailata could take over at right tackle and keep Dillard on the left side. But I think the logical move, like you said, is to keep Driscoll at right tackle and move Mailata over to the left, move him back into the lineup and just have Dillard as your swing guy, I guess.
Yeah, just to clarify, I don't hate Dillard. I don't think Dillard's a bad player. I just think that Dillard's ceiling is much less than Mailata's. Like, I think Dillard and Mailata, like, their trajectories are completely different. And to me, I just want the better player at the tackle position.
Okay, so but then I guess you think that Driscoll is the better right tackle than Mailata? Is that?
Because I haven't really seen Mailata at right tackle much. I've seen more Driscoll at right tackle than I've seen Mailata at this point.
Well, we've seen Dillard at right tackle, and that's not going to work.
Right, exactly. So we know Dillard can't do it. I've seen Driscoll play. I think it's a total of 3 games at right tackle with the Eagles at this point. Like, I know what he can do. I don't know if it's fair to Mailata to just chuck him over to right tackle and Now, listen, I'm not Jeff Stoutland. He knows things that I don't. So there may be something he knows about Mailata that I don't even know. So that might be a factor as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, they know more than I do, but I don't think Landon Dickerson's ready to play in the NFL yet. I don't know if it's health reasons or what have you, or just not used to playing a guard, but I haven't been that impressed with him at all. I know he's been touted as the best offensive lineman in the draft, but he missed a ton of training camp. He's just starting to get his feet under him, and I don't know if they have another guard that they can put out there in his spot, but I think he's been struggling there actually more than Dillard has.
It's interesting you mentioned Dickerson because I've heard somebody else bring up, if I can remember who it was, I apologize, I can't remember giving credit, but they brought the fact that Dickerson literally got injured in December, basically. And so he came back from a serious injury in basically 9 months. Like, that is like the bare minimum to come back. I just have to think that he just might not be ready. I think they're asking him maybe they need him out there because of what's going on, but he obviously is not 100%.
Right. Without Ciamalo and Brooks, I guess you have Herbick and you don't have another guard. I guess the other option is to do Driscoll inside and just use Mailata on the right tackle and Dillard left. I don't know, but maybe they didn't have a choice. I'm not sure, but there's clearly I just don't think he's ready for that yet. I mean, he's shown flashes of being very dominant, but he also gets beat far too often for my liking anyway. But again, Jeff Stoutland, he's as good an offensive line coach as there is. So, if he thinks that Landon's ready, then I got to take him at his word.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem for Landon right now is I think he forgets how big he is. You know what I mean? He's a big man for a guard. Like, he is bigger than the average guard in the league. Physically, height-wise, weight-wise. And, I remember years ago when Khalil Mack first got traded to the Bears, and then they had that Sunday night game where he was destroying the Packers. What did they do in the second half? They made one adjustment. They literally told Brian Balaga, just lean on the guy. You're bigger than him. So they showed the video and they were breaking it down. Then Balaga just put his weight on the Mac. Is like, okay, just move me. And he couldn't move him because he was that much bigger than him. To me, it's like, Landon, you're that much bigger than the guy across from you. Just put your weight on him and make him push you out of the way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Landon is a big boy, that's for sure. Although I guess the defensive tackles are pretty close to him, and they're pretty agile and athletic too, which makes it tough. But yeah, if you're going to have it's probably a smart move for him to use his strength and his size to kind of wear down the defensive line. If anything else, you put your weight on somebody, it's kind of like a heavyweight in a boxing match. You lean on the guy long enough, he's going to wear down, and maybe that's what Landon needs to do. That's use his size to his advantage a little bit.
Dave Weinberg joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, a Weinberg Wednesday at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Dave, before I let you go, baseball playoffs are here. Last night's game, that felt like baseball, right? Like the building was packed. Yankees, Red Sox. Yeah, Yankees fell short again because they're the Yankees and they overspend for nothing. But it was still a fun game to see, and it's nice to see this time of year baseball with the fans back in the stands.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like playoff baseball to me. It's just the most exciting part of the season, or part of the fall. The excitement, the electricity, the tension, the win or go home kind of attitude. And then you're right. I mean, having the fans in there in the stands cheering, booing, what have you. And the wild card thing is tremendous. That's a tremendous idea. Like you said, it's just one and done. So there's really no room for error. You just give the best you got and hope for the best. I'm really looking forward to tonight's Dodgers-Cardinals game to see what happens there, because, everybody just assumed that Dodgers were going to advance, but the Cardinals have been the hottest team in baseball. So it's really going to be interesting to watch. I can't wait to see it.
I mean, the Dodgers are still my pick to come out of the National League, but that could go away tonight. So who are you leaning toward for the World Series, Dave?
Well, just from a personal stand, I've been a huge San Francisco Giants fan since I was a kid, actually. My mother grew up in New York, and her mother and her used to go to the Polo Grounds for Ladies' Day, and she got me into the Giants with Willie Mays and Willie McCovey, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really rooting for them, and for Gabe Kapler too. Just by the way, he's been able to bounce back from his Phillies experience. He's proven that he's a really good manager, and I'm hoping he can see it all the way through.
I mean, he's going to be the manager of the year at minimum. So, I mean,
yeah, that's the truth. Yeah.
By the way, they mentioned this earlier today. The Giants have the average by age. They have the oldest roster in baseball, and they had the most wins this year. So,
wow, about that.
I mean, listen, maybe there's something in the fact that guys like Kapler and Francona, they coach here and they go somewhere else so they have more success. Maybe there is something to that.
Yeah, there you go. I guess the Phillies give you get that experience of losing, and then you go to another team and you build on that, I guess.
Do you have a pick for the American League at all?
That's a tough one.
I said White Sox. White Sox is the team that I'm
that's not a bad pick, really. I would say them or the Red Sox probably.
I just don't think the Rays have the pitching this year. That's to me my problem with Tampa.
I really get a kick out of that, though. I mean, with Tampa and Miami too. I mean, they keep giving guys away. They keep rebuilding, but it only takes them a couple of years, and then they're right back at the top again. Maybe that's the method that you need to use. Just tear everything down. Like that's what the Phillies need to do. Maybe just blow everything up and rebuild. But whatever the formula is that the Marlins and the Rays will use, I mean, it really works for them.
Well, part of it is scouting, and we know the Phillies scouting has been garbage in recent years. Dombrowski basically fired half of the scouting system for the Phillies. So I don't know. Maybe we are a few years away from. Maybe there is hope, right? Exactly.
Well, it's already been a decade. I don't know how much lower they can get.
Right. Well, how much? I mean, the Phillies went from 93 to 2008, and then from 93 to 83 when they lost to the Orioles. So I mean, maybe the Phillies need a decade or so to figure things out every time.
There you go. Once every 12 years, they're going to be good again, right?
Dave Weinberg at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra Point columns at 97.3 ESPN.com. And, of course, the podcast, Tequila and Touchdowns, with Dave Weinberg. He joins us each and every Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, I appreciate you taking time away from your family. You're standing in front of a real
right.
brick
No
wall.
problem.
It's always appreciated that you live in the real world and not the world of backgrounds. I appreciate that.
There you go. There you go. Just another brick in the wall, right?
Have a good one,
Josh,
Dave.
thanks a lot. All right. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Always good to talk to Dave Weinberg. And we want to hear from you guys coming up next. 609-403-0973 is the text board. We got messages on YouTube at 973 ESPN watching the show. So Fred, Jeff, Anthony, Dan, we have a bunch of messages coming in on all the platforms. We get to all your messages coming up next. Josh Hennig right here hanging out with you in the Matt Blatt Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. It's week 5 of the 2021 season with the Eagles headed to North Carolina to face the Panthers.
Gets it to McCaffrey. He screamed it and he's going to lose yards.
Pre-game coverage begins this Sunday at noon. Maryland might call all the action starting at 1. This is where the Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
business online has skyrocketed since the pandemic hit last year. So it has never been more important than now to make sure your business can be found online. Town Square can help you find more local customers with premium website services to help you grow your business faster when you visit mylocalcustomers.com. Don't wait. Visit mylocalcustomers.com today to learn more about how Town Square can help you grow your business. That's mylocalcustomers.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here, Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Of course, you can chime into the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. DM the show, priority messages through the app. Also, the text forward, we'll get to that, 609-403-0973. And we got tons of messages over on YouTube and Twitter. Before we get to those messages, I want to remind you guys about FanDuel Sportsbook. Yes, FanDuel Sportsbook is here to give you risk-free bets each week. NFL Week 5 is here, and Thursday night is a great opportunity to make a same-game parlay bet with 3 legs or more. And if your bet doesn't win, FanDuel will pay you back up to $10. There's no better feeling than nailing a same-game parlay bet. So lock in your bet today when the Rams play the Seahawks on Thursday night and get the $10 back if your bet doesn't win, exclusively with FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook, sign up today with my promo code Hennig to also receive a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code Hennig for your risk-free bets for NFL Week 5 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older to play and present in New Jersey. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Same game parlay available for multiple sports in all states on mobile or web. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's hear from you guys. What is on your guys' mind today here on 97.3 ESPN? Get to the messages in the order they came in here. Anthony chimed in earlier in the show and said, if you look at the Eagles games left all the way to our upcoming bye week 14, the way we are playing, we might not win another game all the way to week 14 bye week. Check the schedule out for yourself. Well, Anthony, I'm glad you said that because we will check out the schedule for ourselves. Now, to preface this, Anthony, I had said already that the Eagles didn't win the Cowboys game. They were probably going to be on a 6-game losing streak. So they got after those 6 games, they got the Detroit Lions Halloween day on Sunday, October 31st. I think they win that game. All right. Then they got the Chargers at home. Tough game, but you are making the Chargers travel across the country to you. And maybe by then the Eagles will have some of their injuries and other issues ironed out, and they have a chance to maybe beat the Chargers. Remember, Washington, was a close game with the Chargers, and that was East Coast as well. Then you got to go to Denver. Tough game. But if Teddy Bridgewater is not healthy, now he might be by this point in the season, but right now he's out with a concussion issue. If Bridgewater is not playing, I take the Eagles. If Teddy is playing, I lean Denver because it is in Mile High. Then you come back home to play New Orleans. Coin flip game. New Orleans has been Jekyll and Hyde all year. Then you got to go to North Jersey to play the Giants and the Jets back-to-back weeks. Those are 2 games you should win. So at minimum, you can win 3 more games before that bye week. So, Anthony, appreciate you chiming in, but we have to agree to disagree. Couple more messages coming in. Dan and EHT chimed in with a couple of messages I want to get to as well. Let's see here. I just lost my spot with Dan here. Dan brought up Dave Weinberg. He says, Weinberg brought up a good point about the receivers going out of bounds, coming back in. 2 touchdowns cost them. And Sirianni is supposed to be a receiver specialist. And again, Doug was supposed to be a quarterback specialist, and certainly wasn't the case. But here's the thing. And this is where I don't 100% agree with Dave's analysis. I think that we blame the coaches too much for things. The coach can tell you what to do, but if you choose not to listen, I can't blame the coach for everything, all right? Dave Weinberg, what he said as well about that point is the fact that, remember the whole point what Dave brought up, You know your entire life playing high school, college, NFL. You can't go out of bounds and then come back in downs and make a catch. It's against the rules. Smith and Rager have to be better. They have to do better. They have to know better. At some point, people need to accept the fact that coaches coach and players play. I can't blame Sirianni for everything. Like, you can't blame Sirianni for J-Jaw's stupid pick penalty, but you can blame Sirianni for J-Jaw being on the field in that moment. That's how I look at it. Another text comes in, 609-403-0973, says, the managers the Phillies have had success elsewhere because they don't have idiot local fans and reporters like you guys second-guessing them, and they can do their jobs. Well, here's the problem, Texter. First of all, if you're so hypersensitive that you're bothered by people having passion and second-guessing you, and you can't ignore a few idiotic fans, then honestly, no, you can't be successful in a big city like Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Chicago. These are towns that are passionate about their sports. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. It's as simple as that. Now, look, I think the problem for Kapler and Francona was they were given bad rosters. You go back and look at those teams, I don't think those rosters were good enough to win. I think that's why they had success elsewhere. I don't think it was because of the fans. In fact, Francona has spoken well of the fans in recent years. He said that, the problem for Philadelphia was he wanted to win for the fans, but him and the organization were on the same page. By the way, Jeff Bone and Pookie is rooting for the Dodgers. I hope the Dodgers win. I want to see them back in the World Series. I want to see Mad Max back in the World Series. Josh Hennig, Game Night. Catch you tomorrow.